Shocker. Imagine my surprise. Just imagine my surprise when Uncle Casey found out that the WNBA is struggling to maintain their ratings without Caitlin Clark. To make matters worse, and this is something I have definitely noticed in the last 3 or 4 weeks, especially since the All-Star game.
The WNBA just got a hard reality check, and it came without Caitlin Clark. TV ratings are sinking faster than a Stephanie White-coached team in the final minutes. One groin injury, and suddenly the historic growth slogan sounds like bad advertising. The big question is, can this league last even a month without its biggest attraction? Be honest, do people really tune in for the other stars when Clark isn't on the floor?
And that problem is Caitlin Clark not playing in WNBA games. Now, what all does this affect? The ratings are plummeting. Guys, there's ratings for a couple of these games that are eye-poppingly bad. We're talking about down in unrivaled territory.
Here's the situation. The league had one sure way to get big TV ratings this year. Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese. That was it. That matchup was their moneymaker. Indiana Fever against Chicago Sky. You didn't need a team of marketing experts to see it. Just two of the most famous names meeting 5 times in one season.
Struggling to maintain interest. Now, in fairness to the dump, the ratings I'm about to share with you guys, they're not bad. Matter of fact, some of them are actually good, at least when compared to what this dump used to draw, which was nothing. But the reason I think the WNBA is in trouble has less to do with these ratings and more to do with what I think is coming.
The league is struggling to keep people watching. Now, to be fair, the numbers I'm about to share aren't all bad. Some are even good compared to what the WNBA used to get, which was almost nothing. But the reason I think the league is in trouble isn't the ratings now, it's what's coming next. If you don't protect your top players, they don't last. Clark has been out for a month and a day with a groin injury, the kind that needs real recovery time, not just tape. It up and play. Reese has been out for over a week. So last Saturday, their so-called golden matchup had neither star on the court. The result? The lowest rating since Clark joined the league. Not just lower, the worst. Couldn't even beat last year's numbers. Out of sight, out of mind. Let's look at the stats. They explain everything. First meeting this year. Huge numbers. 2.7 million viewers on ABC, peaking at 3.1 million, up 115% from last year's ABC average. The perfect storm. Clark's foul drama, her triple-double, the sky getting blown out, and that investigation. Second game was still strong, but dipped a bit. Primetime CBS at 8 p.m., 1.92 million viewers, still one of the most watched regular season WNBA games since 2001, ranked 8th in over 2 decades. That's what happens when both stars are expected to play. Then came Game 3 on ABC, and the slide got worse. From 2.7 million to 1.9 million, now down to 1.5 million. That's 1.2 million people saying no thanks and skipping it. That 1.5 million was the lowest Fever Sky viewership since last year's 1.53 million. And Clark was still active then. Now, this past Saturday, same time slot, same channel, same teams, couldn't even hit 1.4 million. Try 1.3 million. Over 500,000 people decided they weren't watching without Clark. From May 22nd to August 10th, this so-called marquee game lost 1.4 million viewers. That's not a small seasonal dip. That's TV disaster. Networks hate it. Advertisers hate it. And I guarantee Kathy Engelbert hates it. Because without Clark, the Fever's national pull disappears. No one's rearranging their weekend for Kelsey Mitchell isolation plays or Lexi Hull jumpers. And no one's tuning in just to watch the usual officiating mess.
Regular season. And the craziest thing about this last groin injury with Caitlin Clark is how it's been covered. The day after she had the groin injury, she was listed as day-to-day. And then a couple weeks after that, then she was listed to being out indefinitely. Now, ESPN had August 12th as the circled return date for Caitlin Clark to get back onto the court. And just yesterday, she was listed as a game time decision for today's game against the Dallas Wings. And then after practice yesterday, Coach Stephanie White basically came out and said, like, no, Caitlin Clark hasn't even been practicing. So they changed it from a game time decision to her being out.
So what does the WNBA do? It gets desperate. You start hearing the whispers. Hey, Fever, hint at a Caitlin Clark comeback. Just give fans something to grab onto, a reason to watch. It's right out of the public relations playbook. Keep the audience hanging without actually delivering.
And I get it to a certain extent. The fans, the media does not need to know every little thing that's going on with Caitlin Clark's injuries, especially a star player like that. We will never know all the information, nor should we know all the information, and that's actually good for Caitlin. It protects her for when she does come back on the court. She can't be targeted. Teams can't use a certain injury or ailment against her if people don't really know what is going on. But the reporting of her timeline in general, there has been no rhyme or reason to what has been shared about it. To put her as a game time decision for today's game, and then Coach Stephanie White basically coming out and saying she has done no practicing with the team, that's crazy. And I brought it up in my video yesterday.
But here's the problem. Clark's injury isn't the type you rush unless you want to risk turning it into a long-term issue.
Her back in the mix when all of these teams are at peak condition, and we already know what happens when Caitlin Clark gets back out on the court. Teams play defense on her differently. They play extra physical with her. There's all of these different factors that come into play. That's why I'm sort of leaning to the point of maybe Caitlin should be out for the rest of the season. Maybe this season is just done for her. Maybe it doesn't make sense for her to come back into the mix if the Fever aren't contenders. Are the Fever contenders at this point? I'm just not so sure. Do you risk another injury that can again compound and turn into something else down the line?
And you'd think a league that relies on her this much for TV attention would protect her better. But no. This is what happens when you allow constant cheap shots, inconsistent calls, and referees who treat your biggest name like a rookie. Walk on. And if you think it's just Fever games that suffer, think again. Look at the numbers from games without Clark. Sun versus Sunday, 180,000 viewers. Dream versus Mercury, 160,000. If the growth was as massive as the league says, those NBA TV games would be at least 250K, maybe 300K. But they're not even hitting 200K without the Caitlin Clark boost. That's what she is, a ratings boost for the entire league. When she plays, numbers go up. When she's out, numbers fall. And the league has leaned on her so much that without her, they look exposed. This isn't a surprise. The warning signs were there since day one. Your most valuable player for ratings and marketing takes harder hits than some NFL receivers and gets fewer calls than a telemarketer in airplane mode. Landing space fouls ignored. Arms grabbed on drives ignored. Obvious hacks at the rim ignored. Just play on. If Clark got the same whistle that Paige Buchers gets, I think she'd still be active. The Fever might be a top 3 seed and we wouldn't be talking about an August ratings collapse. But here we are. The hype bubble could be bursting. From a peak of 3.1 million to 1.3 million, and NBA TV games barely breaking 200K, that's a free fall without the one player they should protect most. And the real danger is this. Every week, Clark's out. Casual viewers find something else to watch. Once that habit is broken, it's hard to get it back. Especially when the alternative is teams full of players the average fan couldn't name even if you gave them hints. The league's marketing is Clark and everyone else. And the everyone else part isn't pulling viewers. The problem? TV partners don't care about excuses like, wait until our star's healthy. They pay for steady numbers. When they see over 1 million viewers vanish the moment Clark's not playing, they start thinking about cutting future games. No network invests in something that falls apart every time one player is out. That's bad for the next TV deal. And, instead of fixing the real issue, protecting their biggest draw, the league's dangling fake game-time decision updates to squeeze out a temporary bump. We've seen this trick before. It works once or twice. After that, fans catch on and stop believing you. Nothing kills ratings faster than fans thinking you're running a con.
Not be thrown back into any mix if she doesn't have significant practices under her belt before she goes into game speed. You can try to simulate game speed as much as you want in practice. You will never be able to. Game speed is game speed. There's also a lot more adrenaline, all of these different things pumping when you're playing in front of a sold out crowd that the Indiana Fever do every single night. If I'm their coach, she needs to practice for at minimum a week. At the minimum, she needs to be doing everything in practice for at least a week before you throw her back in the mix. Now you're going to throw her back in the mix when all of these teams are at peak condition.
The WNBA's biggest problem is they've built almost the entire season around Caitlin Clark. She's in the highlights, the promos, the primetime slots, the merch pushes. And when she's gone, what's left? Teams pulling less viewers than some high school boys' championship games. That's not an exaggeration. Some local high school streams top 250K. And then there's the league's favorite buzzword, growth. They've said it all year, biggest season ever, record-breaking viewers, merch selling like crazy. But here's the truth. Take Clark out, and the growth shrinks like a balloon in the sun. This isn't league-wide growth, it's one-player growth. It's like saying the Bulls made basketball more popular in the 90s. No, Jordan did. Big difference. And here's what they won't say. The long-term damage is coming. If Clark's out another 2 weeks, that's 2 more weeks of primetime underperforming. 2 more weeks of casual fans finding other things to watch. And no, they won't all come back the moment she returns. Some will, but some are gone for good. And the playoffs? If her comeback doesn't spike ratings to May levels, what's the excuse then? You can't say, we just need time. The whole season's been built around her. If it doesn't work, that's proof the momentum story isn't real. And we can't ignore the cause, the targeting, the rough play, the lack of calls. This injury didn't happen by accident. It's from constant contact with no protection from refs. If she was officiated like a star, we'd probably be talking about her gearing up for the next Fever Sky game with ratings back over 2 million. Instead, she's sidelined, ratings are tanking, and media outlets are laughing at the historic growth story. Reese being out doesn't help either. The Clark-Reese rivalry got fans hooked, but both have been worn down by the grind. Now, without them, the WNBA's big game is just 2 middle-tier teams pulling weak numbers that make network execs check golf scores instead. And without Clark, the Fever aren't just less marketable, they're worse on the court. The offense stalls, spacing is bad, and defenses don't have to respect deep shots. That's not fun for casual fans. They're not tuning in to watch dead possessions and turnovers. So the short-term fix? Tease her return without crossing the line into annoying the fans. Courtside appearances, autograph sessions, light practice videos. Keep hope alive. But the real solution? Fix the refereeing and protect your stars. Or admit the truth. The league lives and dies with one player. This growth is fragile. Without Clark, ratings drop like a stone. That's not growth. That's dependency. And any business built on one person is one bad month from panic mode. Owners see it. Networks see it. Advertisers see it. If Clark's absence can cut 1 million viewers from your top matchup, your problem is bigger than an injury. And the irony? The WNBA actually has other great players who could bring in fans if promoted right. But they're ignored. So when Clark's out, there's no backup plan. It's Clark or bust. And right now, it's bust. One injury has exposed the entire business model, and the numbers don't lie. If they don't fix this dependency, both networks and fans will move on. So, what's your call? Can the league survive without her, or is this the start of a collapse?
getting it back, especially when the alternative is watching 1.1 million peaks to 1.3 million and NBA TV games struggling to break 200K. The trajectory is straight down without the one player the league should be protecting at all costs. And gets, would she still be playing right now? I'd say yes. The Fever would probably be a top 3 seed. And you wouldn't have this ratings yes, ABC. They pay for consistent numbers, not only good when our top draw is active. When they see 1 million+ viewers vanish the moment Clark's not in uniform, they start rethinking how many games they want to commit to next year. Because if you're a network executive, you're not putting your money into a product that collapses every time one player misses time. That's not sustainable, and it sure doesn't give you leverage in the next TV deal. The owners know it, the league knows it, and instead of fixing the problem at the root, completely dependent on one asset is a bad month away from panic mode. Look, the owners see the numbers, the networks see the numbers, the advertisers see the numbers. You don't have to be a basketball genius to realize that if Clark's absence can tank viewership by over 1 million for your best matchup, product that can't stand on its own. And here's the irony. The WNBA has some really good players, skilled, marketable players who could draw more attention if the league actually promoted them